I don't care about spoilers because I'm gonna forget them by the time that I get to that point in the book. I'm built different, and by different I mean wrong. Alright, so it's time to come clean. I did not finish reading The Blood of the Vampire by Florence Marryat, so let's do another basic booktube video because you guys seem to really like the last one, considering it got more views than half of the videos I've ever uploaded on this channel. And before we get started, I am having another really bad pain day, so if I seem manic and delirious, that's why. Personally, I think it adds a certain je ne sais quoi to the video. I was going to put this in my reading wrap-up video that I just posted, and then I forgot. I do this thing constantly where I will make a very carefully curated TBR list or to be watched list or whatever list, and it takes me genuinely hours to do so because I am extremely particular when it comes to things like this. I love making a good list, what can I say? And then at the first chance that I could possibly choose to do something different, I fold under absolutely zero pressure. I've had a movie watch list that has been untouched for at least 3 years now. I've seen other neurodivergent people talk about their compulsory urge to deny authority figures. For example, if somebody tells you to do something, even if you're on your way to do it, suddenly you don't want to do it anymore, and it actually feels like your flesh is being peeled off if you do it anyway. I have that, but for myself. I don't understand why or how. For that reason, I am organizing this video on levels of interest, and because I know the kind of filthy scoundrel that peruses this website, I will put the highest interest first, so you don't actually have to watch this big long video. God, I hope it's not another 30-minute. You can get your hit and leave this video. I know what you are. But if you're not a filthy scoundrel, then I invite you to subscribe. I'm so good at this booktube, man. Starting off our high interest here is a book that I actually don't have that high of an interest in, all things considered, but I said that I was going to read it next. My Give a Damn's Busted by Carolyn Brown. This is off to a great start, isn't it? I was in Goodwill with my friend, as you can see from this 99-cent Goodwill tag. Is it focusing? Guys, can you see that? And I was going through the books to see if I could possibly find anything that would be funny to review, or at the very least it would be funny to hold it up and say, look at this dog. And my friend would laugh because what can I say? I like spreading joy and positivity like that. And I found this amazing title right off the bat. And I found this, which obviously has an amazing title right off of the bat. But the graphic design for the cover is so unabashedly mid that I'm just truly enraptured by it. I also love how the model is obviously a male model, and they didn't even do like any Photoshop to make him look vaguely Southern. I think it's great how much we don't care. But the main reason that I picked it up and knew I absolutely had to read it is because it is set in Mingus, Texas. And my friend and I have this stupid joke about taking a road trip to Thurber, Mingus in Texas. Yes, just the sign. Just the sign. It's a 16-hour drive, and we are just gonna go to the sign because it has a funny word on it. It truly felt like divine intervention when I saw this book in the thrift store. He visits me like 2 or 3 times per year. It was perfect. It was perfect. It was amazing. It was magical. It was a magical bonding moment between us. I couldn't care less what this is about simply because of that. Now for a very tonally and stylistically comparable book, The Torture Garden by Octave Mirbeau. Mirbeau? It sounds French, so I'm not going to respect it. It's another one high on my priority list. I think I originally saw this several years ago on a disturbing literature iceberg, back when the iceberg charts were popular. I tried to do a cursory search to find it again to double check if I would be lying to you by saying that, and instead I found a Goodreads list of the most disturbing books, and the very first one was Animal Farm by George Orwell, so I just laughed really hard and forgot what I was doing after that. Allow me to read you the summary. You'll never be able to guess what The Torture Garden is about. Following the twin trails of desire and depravity to a shocking, sadistic paradise, a garden in China where torture is practiced as an art form, a dissolute Frenchman discovers the true depths of degradation beyond his prior bourgeoisie imaginings. Entranced by a resolute Englishwoman whose capacity for debauchery knows no bounds, he capitulates to her every whim amid an ecstatic yet tormenting incursion of visions, scents, caresses, pleasures, horrors, and fantastic atrocities. Yeah, The Torture Garden's about the torture garden. I'm probably not even close to prepared for the amount of misogyny and racism that's going to be in this book, but there's a few reasons that I would like to read it. Number one, because it was published in 1899, and let's just say, I want to read my redemption dead. 2. Call me a Hellraiser Cenobite, the way I'm about to make Arthur Morgan experience on AO3.org. Secondly, I love 19th century literature and the styles within it, so I'm hoping that this book can offer me beautiful prose about pleasure and pain, because what can I say? I watched Hellraiser at too young of an age, and I think it gave me permanent brain damage. To be more normal, This Side of Paradise by F. Scott Fitzgerald is another book that I want to read. I have had it for 6 months and then put it out of sight, and I guess I lack object permanence for real because I completely forgot I owned it at several points. I have read The Great Gatsby at least 3 times, and out of sight, out of mind, I've forgotten what it's about every single time, but I do remember loving it, each one. It's really a gift to be able to read the same book over and over and over, and every time it's like I'm reading it for the first time. I definitely am not concerned about my significant cognitive decline since contracting COVID-19. I find Fitzgerald's writing style very digestible, and I like the way that he handles stories and characters where it's simple but it's intentional. And I'm hoping that even though I believe this is his debut novel, it'll prove to be more the same. Honestly, I picked it up in a bookstore because it was cheap and it was by an author I recognized. And I will not learn what it's about until I read it. I love a good blind read. I'm a little messed up in the head. I don't know what to tell you. Just a peek into my dark, twisted psychopath world. The only checking I do on a book before I buy it is sometimes I'll look at trigger warnings if my gut tells me that I probably should make sure it's not going to be evil to me. And if I don't know the author, then I will open the book up to a random page and I'll read the page and decide if I want to read however many more pages of that. I don't care about spoilers because I'm going to forget them by the time that I get to that point in the book. I'm built different, and by different I mean wrong. Next up is The Woman in Black by M.Y. Halidom. I believe this is a book that was mentioned in the introduction to The Blood of the Vampire by Florence Marryat as a recommendation for modern vampire fiction, and the summary very much interested me. It was published in 2022, so I'm either going to love it or I'm going to absolutely despise it and never read anything this author has written ever again. If you couldn't tell by my other high priority reads and you weren't around when I used to do movie reviews on this channel, media from the last 20 years is not exactly my favorite thing. If this book can change that, then please let it change that, because I will be the first to tell you that having a significantly lower tolerance for than the average reader nowadays, it truly is not a happy life to lead. I would like to enjoy something for once. It is set during the Victorian period, so that is a good start. To quote the summary, during a trip to a nearby village, the proudly unmarried Sir Ashley Caruthers attends an evening service in the small local church. There, he finds himself seated next to the alluring and hypnotically beautiful woman in black, and is instantly enraptured. But when the vicar collapses mid-sermon after looking upon the woman's face, Caruthers is left to wonder. Who is this mysterious woman, and should he be worried about her pointed ears, her pointed teeth, and her ability to vanish into thin air? Girl, I sure hope he is not, because that will make my life significantly more interesting. To finish off my high priority list, I have The Body and Pain by Elaine, Scarry, which is a nonfiction work exploring the human experience of pain and suffering, especially as it pertains to literature and culture. It was published in 1985, so I'm hopeful for the writing itself, but I am not hopeful for my ability to be able to find a copy of this, especially not an audiobook. And if I can't happen upon a physical copy in a used bookstore, I'm not going to be able to afford to buy that. So I'm really hoping that somebody has homemade an audiobook on YouTube. My local library probably won't have it either. I know I can request stuff, but I'm going to look like a freak. I've already checked out American Psycho 15 times total, and they don't know that it's because I didn't read it before my loan lapsed and I ended up finding an audiobook on YouTube. They don't know that. They're going to talk about me in the break room. Besides the title, let me read to you the summary that would ruin my reputation with the local librarians. I did cut out some of it to make it a bit shorter for this video. This book is an analysis of physical suffering and its relation to the numerous vocabularies and cultural forces, literary, political, philosophical, medical, religious, that confronts it. Elaine Scarry bases her study on a wide range of sources: literature and art, medical case histories, that particularly interests me. Documents on torture compiled by Amnesty International, legal transcripts of personal injury trials, and military and strategic writings by such figures as Clausewitz, Churchill, Little Hart, and Kissinger. She weaves these into her discussion with an eloquence, humanity, and insight that recall the writings of Hannah Arendt and Jean-Paul Sartre. Scarry begins with the fact of pain's inexpressibility. Not only is physical pain enormously difficult to describe in words, confronted with it, Virginia Woolf once wrote, "Language runs dry." It also actively destroys language, reducing sufferers in the most extreme instances to an inarticulate state of cries and moans. Scarry analyzes the political ramifications of deliberately inflicted pain, specifically in the cases of torture and warfare, and shows how to be fictive. From these actions of unmaking, Scarry returns finally to the actions of making, the examples of artistic and cultural creation that work against pain and the debased uses that are made of it. I'm so excited, dude. I love pain and suffering. Again, I'm hoping to bolster my own writing here, but I also want to expand my knowledge. I'm too broke to go to college, but when I was dumb enough to think that that was in my future, I wanted to go into psychology, especially psychological research. So things like this greatly interest me because I'm kind of just left to do my own required reading and then daydream about having a job. America. Yeah. Additionally, I recently picked up a book that was like a brief overview of a ton of philosophical theories and ideas, and I thought it was very interesting, so I'm more interested in dipping my toes into philosophical writings. As per usual, I don't think what I'm actually super invested in would be suitable for this platform, at least not without censoring every other word in hopes that I'm not banned. So I have a handful of less provocative reads that I'm looking forward to, which will probably get shared with you a little bit earlier or instead of. Though starting off with Half His Age by Jennette McCurdy after saying that is a bit of a wild move. I never got around to reading I'm Glad My Mom Died, but I heard a lot of good things about it from booktubers that I watch. Now, I don't usually agree with the booktubers I watch them because they're funny. I'm hoping that finally I can see the light of their ways. I'm trying to be positive here. You know, I don't really know how to do that. The reason I'm particularly interested in this book, though, is because it seems to be from the point of view of the victim. Let me read you the synopsis. Waldo is ravenous, blunt, naive, wise, impulsive, lonely, angry, forceful, hurting, perceptive, endlessly wanting. Hopefully the quality of that first line in the summary is not indicative of anything in the book. And the thing she wants most of all, Mr. Corgi, her creative writing teacher with the wife and the kid and the mortgage and the bills, with the dead dreams and the atrophied looks and the growing paunch. She doesn't know why she wants him. Is it his passion, his life experience, the fact that he knows books and films and things that she doesn't? Or is it purer than that, rooted in their unlikely connection, their kindred spirits, the similar filter with which they each take in the world around them? Or perhaps it's just enough that he sees her when no one else does. I would stick around if you're intrigued by that, because I would like to review this at some point in the next couple of months. That's as soon as I can promise it to you. Because I simply cannot get enough vampires. Woman Eating by Claire Kohda is another modern book that I am very interested in reading. It follows a young vampire who's struggling with her identity as a vampire and also the intrinsic moral issues of her being able to exist in the modern world and also being away from her vampire mother for the first time in her life. So it's kind of a coming-of-age story as well. It's one of those books that I suspect will either be an extremely hard hitter or it's going to swing and miss, and it's going to be extremely disappointing. So this is honestly a pretty high-stakes read for me. I've heard good things about the prose, and the bad things I've heard about the prose are things that make it good for me, like being too purple or too flowery. Okay, give it to me. I'll enjoy it. I'll take care of her. I'll appreciate her the way that you can't. Also, the character to plot driven ratio on the StoryGraph reviews are extremely promising to me. Okay, this is what I like to see in my books. I don't care about what happens. There can be a total of 2 events in the whole thing if I'm stuck in the right person's head. The last book that I want to read for certain is The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. We got a strike today on books published within the last 20 years, and I'm going to cross my fingers when I say this. I feel like they might not disappoint me this time. I am really hoping that Jones is a case where I am not a contrarian, because I've heard great things about their writing, and every time one of their books has been discussed in a review I'm watching, it's been with glowing positivity. Not only that, the subject matter is right up my alley, and if I enjoy this, it's another book where I think I'm going to really enjoy it. I'm very interested to see what this author is going to do with the themes and discussions at stake here. From the summary, a diary written in 1912 by a Lutheran pastor is discovered within a wall. What it unveils is a slow massacre, a chain of events that go back to 217 Blackfeet dead in the snow. Told and transcribed interviews by a Blackfeet named Good Stab, who shares the narrative of this peculiar life over a series of confessional visits. Steve. Can I call you Steve? Don't let me down with the blasphemy in this one. I love horror the most when it is nothing but horror and when it is anything but horror. For the former, you can look at some of my favorite movies because I feel like splatter and extreme/shock media is a little more effective in a visual medium. Things like Rob Zombie's cornball movies that are super campy and just terrible all around. Well, they're not terrible, but like I have to say they're terrible because I'm embarrassed to like some parts of them. For the latter, books like Pet Sematary and movies like My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To, which are less about the horror and more about the way that the characters comprehend and cope with it. Yes, that's right, I'm still repping My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To like crazy. So basically, I just want to read about vampires. Nothing is new with me. I did steal an idea from my best friend, which is setting out reading units for myself like a back alley English class, but I waited too long to lock in on that, and now my brain just won't let it happen, and the hours that I spent curating that list are completely wasted. But if you're interested, here's a little aside about it, because some of these books were on that list, so who knows? Maybe I'll finish it by the end of this year. My main units were going to be books about indigenous culture, vampires in fiction, whether it was an actual novel about a vampire or it was a nonfiction piece discussing vampires in literature, gothic literature with a focus on queer stories, and eroticism in literature pre-1900s. Mark my words, I will get my hands on Venus in Furs one day and I will actually read it. I can't promise when it'll be, only that whenever it happens, I will become the most annoying person on this planet. I can't say I hope you're ready for that because it's simply not possible to prepare for a disaster that enormous. Stream the cover of Venus in Furs by Greek, by the way. It's fantastic. I love it. And that's totally not the reason that I know this book exists and want to read it. If you have a TBR, then let me know how long it's been collecting dust and maybe also add like 6 months to that number before you tell me so that I personally feel better about my lack of action in life. Mine has mostly been unchanged since I created my StoryGraph account, but we're not going to talk about that right now. Which, by the way, you can find me on StoryGraph at bucksface, Etsy at TheBadBazaar, and Instagram at PaleLicky. I draw Arthur Morgan on there. Sometimes. Not really. If you're interested in seeing any of the reviews I make of these videos in the future, hopefully the near future, but who knows, then make sure to subscribe and click that bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Also stay tuned to my community tab because before every video comes out, at least the day before it comes out, sometimes I be forgetting. I will post what is coming out next. Thanks so much for watching. This is a shorter video than what I've been doing, so let me know if we like the shorter ones. Do we want longer ones? There's not really much of a way for me to make a TBR an hour long, but I'm sure if I tried, I could. Thank you for watching. Auf Wiedersehen.